They say some are born lucky, and some are lucky to be born. But if you're royalty, why should that matter? Why should that be the case? Right? You know, for a kid's show, Avatar The Last Airbender was dark. Not in the conventional way that's obvious for, say, other shows airing at around this time, like Courage the Cowardly Dog or The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. Those serve the main objective to be, out there. Avatar was different. It was similar to the kin of Teen Titans. It was a show for kids for sure. It was easy enough to follow with recognizable archetypes, hateable villains, relatable and likable heroes. However, if you visit the show again as an adult, you'll notice something is different. Avatar truly is a war story that embodies tragedy from the very beginning, and with war comes hatred, oppression, greed, and most importantly for this video, adversity. One character that comes to mind that's had it rough since the beginning was Prince Zuko. He embodies what it feels to be a bastard. And the story of Zuko's inner turmoil begins at a young age. He didn't start from humble beginnings or a situation that we normalize as adversity. Zuko, being the prince of the Fire Nation and son to Fire Lord Ozai, we expect him to live pompously. He lives in the Fire Lord's palace. He has the best education possible, and he could get anything that he pleased. As a child, Zuko lived the lifestyle that anyone wishes they could have lived. However, we all know that's not always the case behind closed doors, because we know that abuse has no bounds regardless of status, money, or reputation. The authority in his life, his father Ozai, being the ruthless authoritarian that he was, showed no compassion, no empathy for those that he deemed treacherous. Hypocritical this is his ideology, considering that he was the reason for his father Azulon's death. Ozai's razor-thin line, of which he calls treachery, doesn't end with his people, his subjects, or even his family, including his firstborn. Now, it's safe to say that Zuko was a mama's boy, not by choice but by survival. Ursa, being the complete foil to Ozai, she adored Zuko, and being the wall that he could lean on when Ozai was being abusive and would say hurtful things such as, "You were lucky to be born," and wanting to throw him out, banishing him because he thought he was born a non-bender, causing any type of verbal and mental abuse to a young Zuko. It's not just his father, Azula, Zuko's sister and princess of the Fire Nation. Ozai's favorite child was obviously Azula. She was naturally good at everything, including her bending. She had her father's stubbornness, anger, ambition, and lack of empathy. A sadist. She enjoyed emotionally torturing Zuko and knowing that no one but his mother would prevent this, because Azula was not just a favorite to the Fire Lord, but just as a whole. Azula's the crown jewel to Zuko being the crutched joint. So with that, how could it get worse? He still had his mother, right? He still has his uncle Iroh, another person who I will mention later. Well, that soon comes crumbling down in a chain of events that begins to send Zuko into a complete pit of loneliness, despair, and conflict within himself. As Azulon learns that Iroh's son had mercilessly died during the 600-day siege of Ba Sing Se, the Earth Nation's capital, he was stricken with grief as he had lost his only son and the heir to the throne after Iroh would become Fire Lord. You see, in Fire Nation society, the Fire Lord is succeeded by the eldest son, and in this case, it would have been Iroh. However, Iroh, being the once proud and powerful general, had finally had something taken from him. He may not have been defeated on the battlefield, however, he had been decimated in another way. his spirit. Iroh had lost his lust for both power as a respected general of the Fire Nation and to the heir to the throne as Fire Lord, because he has now seen what pain that power will bring. Now, you're wondering, how does this impact Zuko? I don't get it. Don't get me wrong, at this point in time, Iroh loves Zuko, but the death of Lu Ten, Iroh's son, inadvertently began the doom of Zuko. Azulon was not pleased because now the tradition of heirship was now at the brink of breaking, and Ozai now clinging to the possibility of absolute power. It's in his clutches at this point, practically. His dream that we will find out he will achieve by any means necessary, and in his rash thirst and lust for power, it was taken as disrespect. And now Azulon demands that Ozai must feel the same pain that Iroh is experiencing. He cannot deny the orders of not just the Fire Lord, but his father. Azulon orders Ozai to kill Zuko without a second thought, because Ozai desires this power so viciously. He would attempt to murder Zuko in his sleep. Before this could happen, Ursa pleaded with Ozai to spare his life and offered him something that he could not refuse: the throne. By poisoning Azulon, his own father, the Fire Lord. However, she would have to leave her life behind, everything, even her children, and is to never return. Not just for the treachery of the nation, but out of fear that she would eventually poison him. All this for the protection of Zuko. So Azulon is poisoned. He dies, and Ozai is appointed Fire Lord by the dying wishes of his father. So where does that leave Zuko? At this moment, he has no one. His mother, his shield, is gone. And for now, his uncle is grieving. His father despises him, and his sister continues to emotionally torture him. Zuko is a crowned prince in a palace of thorns. This is why Zuko seems so conflicted within The Last Airbender. He knows what is right, however, he feels drawn to follow what his father deems as honorable, even after burning and kicking him out of his own home to fend for himself. Zuko is tortured by the fact that he is at war with himself, and his ideals is constantly at a crossroads, and he's constantly challenged by them. Does he do what he feels is right by showing compassion, or does he still claw at the aspect that if he does something that does not fall within his honor code, that it will eventually please his father, and you will get the love that he has always wanted from him? Zuko does eventually see that the love that he has always wanted would cause him to corrupt and pervert his moral compass. Inversely, because of the hardships that Zuko had to overcome, and by finding his own way through his own thinking and with the guidance of Iroh, his uncle, the true father to him, he avoided being just like his younger sister, Azula. Her being manipulated so long that favoritism is mistaken for love and cruelty is mistaken for power. Azula found this out bound in shackles, as she once in her life was completely powerless. She had no one to support her because she had driven everyone away, and her father was never there in the first place. She had finally lost and realized that hardship and hard work had overcame what everyone had considered her to be: gifted. They say that some are born lucky, but others are lucky to be born. But being royalty, that shouldn't make a difference, right?